Well, thank you for returning to our color series. We are going to move on to the next color beside red, which is orange, if you couldn't tell. We're trying here. I see those of you with orange on. I love it. In 2 weeks, we'll be doing yellow, so if the whole church shows up in yellow, that would be amazing. You would make my artist heart very happy. Okay, so let's talk about orange, but first, if you missed last week, please go back and listen. We talked about red, the color personality of red. We determined that we were all pretty clear on who are reds in this church. I think we all could name a few. So last week we met red, the challenger, the one who walks in hot and is an impossible person to ignore. Very bold and unsympathetic. We need reds because they are not afraid of change. They're not afraid of hard decisions or leading us. Like Peter, reds are influential and light a fire in all of us. This week, we encounter someone similar but different. Orange. Orange is still warm. It's still hard to miss. But here's the thing. Red does not care if you like them or not. Orange does. Picture the color of a road cone. A basketball, a Nickelodeon logo, a sunset, that's today's color. Orange, bright, warm, fun, and mostly likable. Vasily Kandinsky, a famous artist, said, and I think this sums it up, orange is red, brought nearer to humanity by yellow. Let's meet Orange, the enthusiast. So that's what we're going to call the orange, the enthusiast. Orange is the first one to ride on a roller coaster. The friend who remembers your birthday, the one that gives the toast at the party. Orange offers to help set up for an event and ends up leading a group activity no one assigned them to lead. Orange is warm and inviting, can be charismatic like red, but less imposing, and with a smile. It's the color of thrill and dance and childlike play, the color that never quite outgrew fun. And oranges usually have a talent or a technical skill that makes them valuable and likable. And oranges, I have to add in here, typically have a great sense of humor. But orange has a second job too. It's the color of warning, the color of caution tape, traffic cones, life vests. Orange gets to be both the party and the alarm. Friendly right up until the moment it needs you to pay attention now. Orange at its best. Enthusiastic, cheerful, confident, loyal, well-liked, warm and inviting, a youthful spirit, funny, pleasure-seeking, they like thrills and fun, and they typically have a knowledge, skill, or personality that has a bit of a wow factor, or at least they're well-liked. They're good at what they do. So as you're thinking about these qualities, remember we're thinking about ourselves, but also possibly family members, friends, co-workers that have a similar personality. This is to help us understand them better and for us to be able to have our walk with Christ align the way it should, thinking about our own personality and others. So orange in its shadow. Orange is a people pleaser. Oh, people pleaser, yes. Overachiever to a fault, addiction to performance or achieving. Sometimes they can be a bit immature or goofy, cheap, overreacts. Their motives can be confusing at times or misleading. They may fall into hopelessness or impulsive thoughts similar to red. They're impatient like red, just not as much. They're fickle, chasing the next thrill or accomplishment instead of staying still. Orange craves attention it doesn't always need and is often unaware they're performing to get the attention. Orange combines the energy of red and the happiness of yellow. It's associated with joy, sunshine, the tropics, enthusiasm, fascination, creativity, determination, attraction, and encouragement. To the eye, it reads as a hot color, but it's never as aggressive as red. Orange increases oxygen supply to the brain. It invigorates, it stimulates mental activity, and it is a beloved color among young people. On a deeper note, in the Bible, typically the word used is amber or red-yellow. Hues describing literal objects like calves and fine jewels, but in scripture context, it refers to divine fire, zeal, endurance, and the presence of God on their lives. So this may seem a little unrelated to the Bible story, but hear me out. This is a color that no one could name. Here's something strange. For most of human history, this color did not have a name. Before the 1500s, English speakers did not say orange. They said yellow-red, ruddy, or reddish. There simply wasn't a word for the unique shade in between. Then the fruit arrived, the citrus. Orange spread throughout Europe from Asia by way of Arab trade routes and was so strikingly consistently itself in color every time that people finally had something to call it. The color didn't name the fruit named the color. Orange is the first color in English ever named after a physical object. Everything before it borrowed terms from other colors to describe itself. Have you wondered why we call redheads instead of orange heads? When by any honest look is closer to orange. The word red is ancient, raw, one of the first color words in any language. It matches the personality of red. Red, white, and black are the first colors in any language. The term redhead was used 300 years before the word orange ever existed. So anything orange simply got called red because red was all we knew. That's the origin of the red heifer in Scripture too, an animal that was very likely closer to a rusty orange-brown than a true red, described with the only color language available at the time. And for centuries, orange didn't get to be its own thing, and this kind of ties into orange's personality. It just got absorbed into someone else's name, desperate to stand out, to be special. And in truth, they really are special. But sometimes they do so much, they tend to lose themselves just a little. Historically, oranges were rare for many climates, a genuine luxury. Sometimes the one piece of fresh fruit a family might see all winter, tucked into a Christmas stocking as a treat because it was hard to come by. That's an orange person. Special, a gift, a fruit that is literally life-saving in its nutrients and its nourishment, its vitality, its warmth against the cold, the sweetness of something right when you need it most. Orange doesn't just feel cheerful. It feels like relief. It's life-giving. Cleverness or comedic relief, the talent in the room, the smiling face, the matter-of-fact outlook, at least on the surface. Something is fitting in that. Orange, even now, doesn't get taken quite as seriously as red, often mistaken for a shade of something else or standing in someone else's shadow, doing the work without always getting the credit. Orange has a lot to offer. They are committed, available, and appear confident. Orange collects a few more oddities. It's one of the few common words in English with no true rhyme. Nothing else quite sounds like it. I know you're all trying right now. No matter how hard you turn it, somehow fitting for a color that resists sitting quietly in a category. Orange has a gift for turning into identity, a color people rally around, wear as a team spirit, claim as belonging, the same way that orange people turn their relationships and their careers and their talents into an identity. So let's talk about orange in design and life. Because orange is one of the most visible colors to the human eye, designers use it to grab your attention and flag importance. Road cones, warning signs, life vests, safety gear. It's also widely effective at selling food and toys, especially paired with blue. Next time you go down the cereal aisle, just pay attention. Lots of orange and blue. And it's all over children's brands. But shift the shade, and the meaning shifts with it. Dark orange starts to read as deceit or distrust, the friendliness curdling into something you can't quite pin down. Red orange swings the other direction, towards desire, passion, a thirst for action. Think of the heat of high summer. And brown, which is actually dark orange, is dependable, reliable, down to earth. Think about cardboard boxes, UPS. There's a real thirst for life quality to this color that goes beyond decoration. Orange people tend to want to feel things, to want to be fully in an experience rather than just watching it happen. That childlike quality isn't immaturity so much as a genuine pull towards fun, play, and the kind of moment that becomes a memory. Orange doesn't plan for someday. Orange wants the good thing now. Orange also wants to be seen, but carefully. It wants to be special, noticed, without being offensive, people pleasers. Orange will read the room for a bit, soften itself, adjust to stay likable, for example, say something funny or clever, the comedic relief, share their talents, and rarely clock that instinct in itself because it doesn't feel like compromise from the inside. It feels like being friendly. Kids and teenagers love orange. It was my favorite color for many years, but that preference wears off. By adulthood, orange tends to land near the bottom of the most favorite color surveys, the very bottom. A shift that researchers tie partly to how our color receptors in our eyes change as we age, and partly to something less physical, maturity, growth, the pull towards calmer, cooler colors as life gets heavier. Orange is a color we tend to outgrow, even when part of us misses it. So who is Orange as a person? And what is this going to tell us about the Bible character that Pastor is going to share? Orange is the one already talking to the new person before anyone else notices them standing alone. Orange leads the celebration, gets the whole room moving before they've thought twice about it. People are drawn to Orange. They're loyal, committed, and by almost anyone's account, well-liked. Somewhere between the joy, the talent, and the leading, motives could get tangled, even to themselves, a misunderstanding of identity. Orange isn't confrontational like red. Orange just gets a bit complicated, well-meaning and hard to fully read sometimes, even if the person living with it. When Orange is healthy, they are not afraid of a stage, not afraid of a spotlight, a microphone, a room full of eyes. That's not vanity. It's not vanity. It's simply where they're comfortable, being present with people, for people, and living life to the fullest. Orange people tend to aim for the best with whatever they've been given. The best version of the job, the home, the friendship, the room they just walked into, all of it at once done well, which is exactly where the strain shows up. And I think we could all relate to this even if we're not Orange. Something almost always gets sacrificed to keep everything running. A corner cut to shine at work, a friendship that quietly goes unattended while everything else gets the good version of Orange. This color is a flash, not a slow burn. And spread across too many places at once starts to fizzle. Orange doesn't run out of warmth. It runs out of room to hold it all. So the question for the room, is Orange your color? Ask yourself, are you the one who gets the party started without being asked? Or at the least, performing just a little bit at the party? Do you have talent, knowledge, or charisma, and strong sense of humor? Orange people are funny. I always say orange people are the ones that invite you to the amusement park, right? Like I would never go to an amusement park of my own choice, but there's someone orange in my life that would be like, come on, let's go. Do people describe you as fun, warm, easy to be around, someone they genuinely like having near them? Have you ever had to sit with the uncomfortable question of why you really did something kind, whether it was fully for someone else or could it be partly for you? Do you find yourself chasing the next exciting thing before you fully settled into the last one? If that sounds like you may be an Orange. Enthusiastic, loyal, magnetic, the friend everyone wants at the table. Just watch the undertow. The same warmth that draws people to you, left unexamined, can start drawing attention back to yourself instead of to what or who you meant to celebrate. And in closing, Orange spent most of its history without a name of its own. Borrowed language, borrowed identity, until the world finally had something bright enough to hang the word on. Maybe that's true of some of us too. We're warm, we're well-liked, we're celebrated, and still, every so often, needing to ask what we're actually chasing and why. If red and orange both missed you, don't worry. Yellow is next.
My former boss man is an Orange. So if you're watching this, David, and Terry, there you go. When I was reading through Holly's descriptions of what Orange is and the characteristics of Orange, there's a couple different biblical characters that could fit. Probably one of the more famous ones would be Samson. Samson, if you read his story, is orange. Like the dude he's just orange. Like he's not red. He's this guy that likes the thrill of stuff and he goes after things. He's just an orange guy. But I came across, in reading, a lady, and I'm going to introduce you to her today. So if Peter is red, bold, impulsive, magnetic, orange is Miriam. Where Peter's intensity draws people through sheer force, Miriam's energy draws people through celebration. She is the one leading the dance, the one with the tambourine, the one who gets the whole camp singing. If you know an orange person, you know exactly what I mean. They are the life of the room, the one who turns an ordinary moment into a party, the one who makes everyone feel like something worth celebrating just happened. And Miriam's story shows us both what that gift looks like at its best and what happens when the very same energy turns towards comparison instead of celebration. Miriam was adventurous and tough. We first meet her without a name in Exodus chapter 2. When she could hide him no longer, she took him from a basket made of bulrushes and dabbed it with bitumen and pitch. And she put the child in it and placed it among the reeds by the riverbank. And the sister stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. That sister is Miriam. Though we're not told her name yet, a child watching her baby brother float in a basket among the reeds of a river that Pharaoh has ordered to be the graveyard of every Hebrew boy. And then Pharaoh's daughter finds this basket. And then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse a child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Watch what she does. She doesn't panic. She's not hiding. She walks right up to the daughter of the very man trying to kill her brother and makes a proposal with total confidence. That is Orange at its best. Social, quick thinking, tough enough to walk into danger with a plan already forming, adventurous enough to speak when everyone else would stay frozen and silent. A child saved the future deliverer of Israel with nothing but boldness and a good idea spoken at exactly the right time. Fast forward a few decades, and the sea has just parted. Pharaoh's army is just drowned. Israel has just walked through on dry ground and watched the water crash down behind them. And then Miriam in Exodus chapter 15, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and dancing. And Miriam sang to them, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea." She's called prophetess here. This is the first woman in Scripture given this title. And what does the prophetess do with her gift? She throws a party. She leads worship with an instrument in her hand and dancing in the street. This is Orange doing exactly what Orange was made to do. Turning triumph into celebration, pulling everyone else into the joy, making sure nobody misses the moment because they were too reserved to dance. If you're Orange, this is your gift too. You're the one who makes sure people actually celebrate the good things instead of just quietly noting them. You bring the tambourine nobody else thought to bring. And I have a confession from my side. Last week I told you, and you may have guessed, that I was a red. And I need to admit something about how I read Miriam and Orange people. My first instinct with Orange people is usually admiration mixed with a little bit of suspicion. I love the energy. I love that someone in the room is making sure that the good thing actually gets celebrated and just instead of just quietly noted and moved past. But if I'm honest, some part of me has wondered, is this real or is this performance? Red wants credit for being direct. Orange wants to be seen. And I have, more than once, judged that second thing as somehow less honest than the first, when it isn't. It's just a different color doing what it's built to do. I think that judgment says more about me than it does about Orange. Red mistakes Orange need to be a part of the celebration for shallowness because Red doesn't naturally understand why anyone would need the room to notice them. But Miriam standing at the front with the tambourine, pulling the whole camp into worship, that's not vanity. That's a gift. And some people can throw a party nobody else knew the moment deserved. And where I think Orange has to be honest with itself, the way Miriam eventually had to be, is the moment the need to be seen stops serving the celebration and starts competing with it. That's not a red critique. That's what the text says itself in Numbers chapter 12. Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married. And they said, "Has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also?" The same confident, vocal, socially bold woman who led Israel in worship now leads a complaint against her own brother. Notice what the complaint actually is. It's not really about the Cushite wife. The text tells us that in a single clause and then moves entirely to the real issue. Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? This is the shadow side of orange laid completely bare. Competitive, compares herself to someone else's platform, needs to be seen as equally significant. The same boldness that once said, "Shall I go and call a nurse?" now says, "Why does he get to be the one that everyone listens to?" Orange that once celebrated someone else's triumph at the sea now cannot stand watching someone else's leadership without needing recognition of her own. Continuing in Numbers chapter 12, "And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And when the cloud removed from over the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous like snow." The consequence here is severe and immediate. The woman who once stood boldly at the riverbank now stands outside the camp for 7 days, excluded from the very community that she once celebrated and led with a tambourine. But she gets redeemed. And here's where the gospel gets to work on orange specifically. In Numbers chapter 12, verse 13, "And Moses cried to the Lord, 'O God, please heal her, please.'" The brother that she just tried to diminish is the one who intercedes for her healing. He does not defend his own position. He does not let her sit in the consequence to teach her a lesson. He simply prays, "Please heal her, please," with a kind of urgency that has no room for a grudge in it at all. But the Lord said to Moses in verse 14, "If her father had spit in her face, should she not be shamed 7 days? Let her be shut outside the camp 7 days, and after that she may be brought in again." 7 days pass, and then she's brought back. The camp does not move without her. Numbers 12:15 tells us plainly, the people did not set out on the march until Miriam was brought back in again. The whole community waits for her. The one who tried to compete for significance is restored to the community that would not leave without her because they knew what she meant to them. And this is what I want you to hold on to if orange is your color. The same social boldness that once demanded equal recognition is the same instinct that once threw the greatest worship celebration in the Old Testament. Miriam's gift was never the problem. Her voice, her confidence, her ability to gather people and lead them in something bigger than themselves, none of that needed to be removed. It needed to stay pointed outward, towards celebrating what God was doing instead of turning inward towards what she was not getting credit for. Micah later remembers her among the 3 God sent to lead Israel out of Egypt. In Micah chapter 6, verse 4, it says, "I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam." She's not written out of the story. Her leadership is not erased. It's simply finally restored to what it was always meant to be. And then she's reconciled. There's a difference between being punished and being reconciled, and this story gives us both. You see, Miriam experiences consequences, 7 days outside the camp, but the reconciliation is not just that the leprosy heals. It's that the entire nation of Israel refuses to leave without her. The camp does not march and let her catch up when she's ready. They wait. That's exactly what reconciliation looks like. It's not simply removing the consequence, but the community holding open the door until the estranged one can come back through it. Again, if you are orange, this is good news built for you. Christ does not want to quiet your voice or dim your social energy. He wants to reconcile you so completely that the same boldness that once needed everyone to notice you becomes the boldness that makes sure that everyone else gets noticed and celebrated instead. What an orange does at their healthiest in Christ is point to the goodness of their life and what's going on and celebrates that with a genuine passion that no other color can. If you're the one that lights up the room, who brings energy, who makes sure that good things actually get celebrated instead of just quietly passing by, that is real That is a very real and a very holy gift. Miriam's tambourine mattered. Israel needed someone bold enough to dance after the sea closed over Pharaoh's army. But I want you to watch out for the moment that this same voice turns into from celebrating someone else's triumph to demanding recognition of your own. That is the same color aimed at the wrong thing. Christ isn't asking you to bring less energy into the room. He's asking you to keep the tambourine pointed at him. And if you're an orange today, understand that the church needs you. They don't need more reds. Sorry. We're a lot to handle. And if you get too many reds in a room, nothing gets accomplished because tables will be thrown and punches will be thrown and it's just all this stuff. But what reds lack and what I lack is the celebratory factor of understanding that like something cool's happened in somebody's life. Let's celebrate that stuff. That's what matters. The church needs that. The church needs the celebrators, the enthusiastic people, the ones who go up to the strangers and welcomes them into the doors, the ones that allow people to feel welcome wherever they are. The church needs orange. Maybe more so than they need red sometimes. Orange matters. So if you're an orange, be proud of that. Be proud of the fact that you are like Miriam. That you can lead a nation in a dance and in a celebration. Just be careful, because once you start comparing yourself to others, you miss the point. You celebrate for what Christ has done not only in your life but in others. That's your superpower. You're the one that gets the party going, and you're the one the church needs. If you'll stand as I close.